May I have your attention, please? Once again, I'm Margaret Copey, and I'm president of FOLQ. And if you want to get coffee and dessert, please start doing that. We need to start our program because we have a guest speaker at 7:30. But before we get started here, a few comments I would like to make. We've had a very busy year since our last annual meeting, which was held virtually last May. We've dedicated bricks at Spalding Park. We've participated in the Fall Festival by the lake. We received donations from Mystic Runners in July. We coordinated with Run for the Ages in November. We've updated the laws of our organization. We adopted a vision and mission statement. Our mission statement is to protect and enhance the waters of Lake Quannapowitt and the surrounding lands. And our vision is a shoreline greenway surrounding Lake Quannapowitt. We named Doug Heath and Allison Simcox, who are here with us tonight. Round of applause for them, please. As the recipients of the Gertrude Spalding Award that ordinarily would have been presented last November at our breakfast, but we will give it to them this year. We're hoping to have the breakfast this year. We're pleased to have them here with us tonight. We engaged the services of a social media service specialist, Anne-Marie Gallivan, who's with us tonight, taking pictures, she's posting, and she's been a great help to increase our presence in social media, which we realized we needed. And of course, we spent the year working on the Memorandum of Understanding on the project at the head of the lake by the Cabot and Forbes apartment proposed project between people like Rob Weddick, Bill Boudreau, Bill Conley, Karen Thaler, Lee Given, let's see, who else? Carol Dennison. I hope I'm not missing anyone. We go almost every other week. We go to 2 or 3 Zoom meetings of the ZBA, the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission to keep up with what's going on. We're hoping that they are going to close the hearings within another week or so. That's our hope, but we'll see. We also noticed, though, that they are keeping the MOU that we negotiated with CC&F in the forefront as they're having all these discussions, so we're pleased to see that. I want to thank all of our current board members. Sue, I see a bunch of them here tonight. I'm going to look around the room. I see Carol Dennison, Rob Weddick, Bill Boudreau. Let's see who's at the back table here. Going around. Bill Conley, Doug Mildrum, Lee Given. Did I miss anyone?
John's up there.
Oh, John, I didn't see you back there. John is the one who really shepherded the vision statement process for us. Thank you, John, for doing that. That was nice. And Tom Stapleton. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge that we have some guests with us tonight. Who is that? Uh-oh. Wait. Hello. We have some guests here tonight that I would like to introduce. The first one is Senator Jason Lewis. Yeah. Would you like to make a few comments?
Thank you, Margaret. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be back with you, and I want to offer my thanks and gratitude on behalf of the whole Wakefield delegation, myself, as well as Representatives Lippiger, Median, and Wong, for all the terrific work that you do to protect and preserve the lakes and the watershed. I also want to offer our congratulations. I think last year was the 30th anniversary, is that right? For Friends of Lakeview, I think we're the 30th.
Yeah.
Is that right? So, congratulations on that. We are at the state level, one of our top priorities has been working for a number of years on issues related to combating climate change and environmental sustainability, and of course, protecting our open space, our water bodies is critically important, and that's something we're going to really stay focused on. I did want to also mention, on a more local level, some good news. In the state budget, which we are currently working on, this is for the next fiscal year, which starts July 1st. The Wakefield delegation was able to get funding for 2 local projects and initiatives, which I think will be important to the work you're all doing. The first is funding $75,000, which will go toward finally being able to build accessible restrooms at the lake, because I know that's been something you wanted to do for a long time. And I want to thank Steve Mayo for discussing that with the delegation and letting us know what important priority that is. And then the other local earmark that we were also able to secure in the budget is funding for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Stoneham and Wakefield in the amount of $85,000, and that money is going to be used by the Boys and Girls Clubs to build a new environmental science lab and makerspace here in Wakefield. And one of the things they want to do with that new lab is water quality testing. And I know many of you have been involved in that work, at the high school. This will provide another opportunity for young people to engage in water quality testing for Lake Quannapowitt as well as other bodies of water, and obviously lots of other science-based projects as well. So we're really looking forward to that getting built and being available to the community. So great to be with you, and again, thank you for all the good work that you do.
So good to have a WCAT alum here with us today. With us today too are the town administrator, Steve Mayo. Thank you for coming, Steve. And we have two of the town council members, Ed Dombrowski and Maureen Butt. Have I missed anyone? I think not. Thank you all for coming and being here tonight. What we're going to do now is proceed to the next part of the program, which is the certification of a quorum. Bill Conley has offered to take notes tonight as acting secretary. Thank you, Bill. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do, Margaret.
Thank you. Approval of the 2021 minutes, which I believe all the board members, it was distributed to them from last year's meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the 2021 annual meeting members?
I can make a motion to approve the 2021.
Okay. Yeah, Rob made a motion. Can I have a second? Tom Stapleton, and Doug seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? It is passed. Thank you. Our financial report, FY 2021. Courtesy of Doug, our treasurer, can be
Talk loud. Everybody's quiet.
can be requested by going to mail@folq.org and asking for it. Tonight we have to reappoint current serving board of directors members, Bill Butler, who is not with us tonight, Bill Conley, who is, myself, Margaret Copey, and Doug Mildrum to 3-year terms. Can I have a motion for that to
I'd like a
approve
motion
this?
to approve that slate.
Rob Reddick made the motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Lee Gibbons seconded. Are there any further nominations from the board, from the floor? All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. We're honored. We also want to nominate and elect current board member Bill Boudreau. Bill, would you raise your hand? There he is. To the position of vice president. Bill has joined the board and been an invaluable asset. So we would like to put that nomination forward to the floor. May I please have a motion to elect Bill Boudreau as vice president?
I make the motion.
Yeah. Oh, Carol Dennis made the motion, and Rob Weddix is seconding it. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. I now need a motion to accept as required at annual meeting all changes to the FOLQ bylaws as recommended by the Board of Directors at our April 2022 meeting. And I want to thank Bill Conley and Carol Dennison for the massive amount of work they've done this winter on updating our bylaws. There were a lot of things that were out of date,
and a lot of things that weren't clear, and they finally, they worked on it. If anybody has any questions about that, I would be glad to try and answer them. If not, I would like to have a motion to accept the changes to the bylaws.
So move.
Bill Boudreau moved, okay, second, Doug Mildrum second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Abstaining, it's unanimous, thank you. And now I'd like to recognize retiring Board of Director members. There were 3 of them. I don't believe Joe Twitchell is with us tonight. He had said he was coming, but he's not here. Joe Twitchell has resigned from the full board member, but asked to be an associate member, and I think we're all pleased to have that him. And we have a nice plaque for him, which I was hoping to be able to present, but we will get this to him. Thank you. So, yeah, I just want you all to know what he did. The other 2 are Mary Salois and Phil Salois, who could not be with us tonight. They also resigned after annual meeting last year and are still active members of our organization, and we appreciate everything they did for us. I have to let you all know something, though, that Karen Thaler, who is in many ways I consider the heart and soul of this organization, was diagnosed positive with COVID, 2 days ago now? And she had every intention of being here tonight and could not, and I know that, you know, she misses coming to this meeting, so I just want you all to know how much work she does. You know, she really is, she's got a lot of institutional memory too, so she's a really important part of FOLQ. And with that, I would like to adjourn the business part of the meeting.
So move.
Bill Boudreau moved,
Second.
Rob Reddick seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? It's unanimous. We are adjourned, and I think the next thing on our list, Bill Boudreau, you're going to take over now and introduce our guest speaker, right?
Yep.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So happy to see everybody here, and I want to echo what Margaret said about Karen Thaler not being here. I've only been a board member for about 9 months, so I'm a newbie, and I had said to my wife Ann, who's sitting at the table with me, she was somebody I really hoped that Ann could get to meet, because she's an extraordinary woman, and the work that she does on behalf of FOLQ just is amazing to me, absolutely amazing. So I bested her. I texted with her today to see how she was doing, and she said, "I feel great. I'm out working in the yard in the rain." So for those of you who know Karen, you know, no surprise that, you know, she would keep going through anything. And before I get on with introducing our guest speaker, I want to thank my good friend Rob Reddick, because he's the one who's set up all the AV here tonight and all the beautiful pictures that you saw in the background, some of them still showing on the TV. So, you know, Rob, it's awesome that you're able to do that for us. So I'm very pleased to be able to introduce our guest speaker tonight. His name is Dennis Fazio. Fazio. So that blew the mic. So I'm having a little bit of fun with Dennis, because I was at a scholarship foundation event about a month ago, and Dennis spoke about one of the funds that had become permanent, and he got up there and introduced himself, and amongst things he said is he pointed out that the pronunciation of his name was Fazio, not Fazio. So something I want people to remember, Dennis Fazio, Fazio. But anyway, we're really happy, you know, that you're here tonight to be our guest speaker. And with Dennis tonight is his wife Diane, 2 daughters, Christine and Samantha. So we're really happy that get a chance to see your dad come up here and do you proud for the work he does for Wakefield. Dennis is a proud graduate of the class of 1986 from Wakefield High School, and he graduated from Salem State College with a degree in human resources. So he did tell me that he puts that to use in his work every day now, but apparently it wasn't what he set out to do when he went to school. So you did work in tree maintenance for years, and started with the town of Wakefield in 1996, and became head of the Parks, Forestry, and Cemeteries Division in 1998. In this role, he manages 17 people working in 3 different divisions. And again, Dennis has noted to me that his degree in this work comes in particularly handy managing his team. For the three divisions, and talking to Dennis for me is absolutely fascinating to learn about all the things he knows and is so articulate about all the parks and things in Wakefield. For the three, and again, correct me if I didn't get this right, Dennis, but he manages over 120 acres, his team of maintenance for all the different properties in Wakefield. And, you know, one of the things we were talking about is, you know, when you consider that you see as people mowing lawns or using big machines, small machines, a lot of the places where they do the work, and my wife and I were walking up in the brake height the other day, and they're up there with, you know, weed whackers, because you simply can't get to the grass in every area like we could do if we're mowing our lawn at home or places like that. So you have to go through extraordinary measures to take care of the habitat and the vegetation, what they do. So Dennis could speak on many, many subjects regarding maintaining many areas of the town, including all school properties, which the town took over from the school department in 2000, I believe, as a result of the changes in the town charter. But tonight, we've asked him specifically to speak about controlling the geese population in and around Lake Quannapowitt. And he will also discuss specific lakeside work being done around Veterans Field, which I'm sure many of you know are going on around the Floral Way, both from a recreation perspective, what's going on with the tennis and pickleball courts that will be there, which will be phenomenal, and the work that's being done from a lake quality perspective. And I would like to just offer a personal note, as a long time, basically townie, living in Wakefield almost all my life, and I mean this very sincerely, I think we're extremely fortunate to have somebody like Dennis in his role. He's extremely, tremendously knowledgeable, committed, and passionate about his work, and we all benefit from that. So at the end of Dennis's presentation, we'll have time for a few questions. And Dennis, come on up.
Yep. All right, thank you. Well, hello. I'd just like to say thank you, you guys, Friends of Lake Quannapowitt. Like a lot of the groups in town, we have WCNA, Adopt a Site Committee, helped out with all of them. And as a whole, between all the groups and our staff, I do have to, you know, really put a shout out to my crew, because they're the ones that are actually out there getting it done. Any day you drive by the Lower Common and it's clean, it's cut, there's no trash, there's a reason for that. The guys are out there picking up the trash. It's just, it's not even a discussion. They just do it. They pick it up, they cut, they grass, they take pride in it, and the ball diamonds and everything. So it's a little shout out for those guys too in the trees. So, and I could talk about all the different stuff that we do, but so tonight's gonna be kind of a fun night. I'll try to keep it relatively short. We should be out of here by about 11 o'clock tonight. But you know, they wanted to talk about the goose thing. So, I mean, we've been doing this a long time, and for you guys out there that have been involved for a while too. So, you want me to try it? Do I have to? Is this better? Yes. All right, so we talk about the goose, and it's an ongoing thing, and it's kind of a funny story too. We really, Wakefield is really a trendsetter for what we've done with our goose program. Other towns have really started to jump on and model what we were starting, what we've done, what we failed, and what succeeded. So it's kind of an interesting tale. So for you that have gone through it, you know, hopefully it's not too redundant, but it's a pretty interesting thing. So again, we'll start off basically. So I'm going to take it off from 1996, because that's when I came to the town. And at that time, you know, what we were starting to see in Wakefield was we were starting to see a bunch of, you know, big trend in taking a lot of pride in our turf around the lake quality. We were starting to get more crowds around the lake. Walking was starting to really take off. You know, it was coming a big thing. So we started seeing a huge influx of geese around the commons and the fields. We have numbers back then with Bill Butler and the crew. We were looking at 240, 210 birds down in the common. So our worst day now, we might see 40. So can you imagine 3 times that down there? So and as we found out, there was there was a big reason for that. Obviously, we have the lake, we've got all the beautiful grass all around it, and it's a perfect environment for geese. Throw in that we have Audubon Road, we've got all the neighboring towns, but more importantly, we found out we were on a fly zone, intercoastal fly zone, to go from south, to north, and so it just worked out. So throw in that at that time, we were starting to see the winters were milder. 1996 was a bad year for snow, but other than that, they're a lot milder. We're not getting snow until later. The springs are melting out, so the geese just aren't flying south. There's enough room for them to come around and hang out during the winter, so they're just really not going. They're hunkering in. So, little picture of what you can see when they get comfortable. That's them creeping up, and they do come in at night, and they'll get as far up as almost to the right up to the curb line there. So, back in '96, we saw the first effort that the town was starting to get involved with for goose control. We had Kenny States was the animal control officer at the time. We ended up getting Flash. I don't know if you guys remember Flash. So Border Collie was very expensive, was about $2,500. This was a great simple approach. Kenny was around. He took the dog in. Border Collies, as you know, great dog to have, not aggressive. They're task oriented. They focus on just what they need to do. They don't get involved with other dogs. They're not aggressive with people. And more importantly, they crouch down. So those of you that know that geese get real nervous when a dog approaches them and crouches. Labrador goes goofy and runs into the crowd. Doesn't scare them. They just get displaced a little bit. Dog runs up, crouches down, their heads stand up. It's like a predator, and they get nervous and they start going to the water. So the negatives to the program, geese actually know the color blue. So Kenny would always get one of the used police cruisers that was blue. He'd pull up, the geese would just know he's coming. They know that the dog was going to be coming. Similar what they do with me now. Half the time I don't have to put on my flashes. I don't have to use the bird gun, which I'll get to. They take right off. They get into the water just out of harm's way from the dog and Kenny at the time, and then maybe 20 minutes later they're back. The other negative too is that, as I mentioned here, and I can say this because Kenny's a good friend, but at one point Kenny had got hurt, was on workers' comp, and Flash stepped in a hole and broke his poor little leg. So we had both of them out on workers' comp. I think they both on the system right now, but so that was unfortunate. So we had a little lull in the action at that point. Kenny was getting out of the bird control thing because his job was becoming more involved with his other stuff in town. So he kind of gave the permit for the bird bag and gun, which again I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then I started running around the best I could, chasing him with the flashing lights and getting him into the water and just buying time basically. So in '98, like I said, when I took over as supervisor, same thing. I'd say roughly between '98 and 2000, we started to really notice the numbers were still going up. Okay, that was starting to be a discussion. There were members on Friends of Lake Quantum Power at the time that were concerned for things, and then there was also, we were starting to see algae outbreaks with the lake. So is this maybe part of the goose? Is this the excrement from the geese? Is this, is it all fertilizer? So it was all starting to kind of get entwined. Plus it was just getting plain disgusting. So we as you can see, there's a little fact up there that they eat 4 pounds of grass a day. And if we're all grown-ups here, we'll say poop instead of excrement because I think it's 2 pounds a day from a bird. So that's a lot of stuff that they're leaving for us to step in and go around. And they also live a long time. So this was when we started to actually started to form the geese committee. And this is great. So we had Bill Butler, Jim Scott, Al Turco, Ron Del Volpe. We had Jim Good, myself. And this is great. Tommy Butler, had told us that we were going to start this committee, And in Tommy's true fashion, he called me up and he says, you know, hey, Faze, you know, do you believe this? He goes, we got an actual committee to talk about. And he's like, and I'm not trying to be funny, but he goes, we got to do it. We got to do it. This is important stuff. And he'd hang up, and then an hour later, he'd still laughing. And he says, I can't believe we got to do this. And but he said, but he knew it was important. It was, I mean, like I said, we had, you know, between 200 and 300 birds on the common and at Vets Field, so it was covered. So, so we started discussions with the Board of Health. We got them involved. We started talking with the state. We started to get permits for, believe it or not, to net and/or get rid of the geese, and they were starting to do it. We're going to be a tough sell because the community, obviously, you know, as much as people wanted to get rid of them, there were a lot of people that didn't want to get rid of them and thought that they deserved a place here. But the state wanted to see the numbers at a excessive number. So our 250 birds on any day on the common, in their eyes, wasn't quite there. Apparently, they wanted to see the whole entire common covered with birds. And that's what they were allowing. They were allowing golf courses to get permitting to go out there and shoot them at night with, you know, quietly with bows and arrows. And so obviously the negatives were, you know, residents didn't want to hear us about, you know, taking the cute babies away. MSPCA as opposed to killing anything. So they really didn't want to do it. So it was, and the other negative that the state was kind of coming back with us was that the excrement really was not toxic. So it's about 90% just straight grass. So it goes in, comes out. It's different than human feces and dog excrement, which has a whole different, you know, makeup of it. So didn't think you were going to talk about that tonight, did you? Huh? We're going to talk about the science of the things. But, you know, this is all the things that we actually all had to talk about. We had typed up, we have minutes. We had to bring it to the selectmen. We'd tell them where we are with our updates. And you can imagine there I am on a Monday night saying, well, we found out that the excrement isn't going to allow us to get the birds taken away. So we had the state wanted us to try other means. So this is where we start off. We started off, they wanted to see that we were practicing all these other means. Were they working? And then come back and see the numbers. And so they came up with the idea. I didn't agree with a few of these, but we ended up doing the fishing line fence. I don't know if you guys remember that. That was right across the whole lower common, was these atrocious metal snow fence spikes and runs of monofilament fishing line. And it was just a disaster for so many reasons. Kids would have their toys thrown on over it. We'd have to climb over it. Kids were getting stuck in it. It was unsightly. The birds would run through it. They'd get stuck. We're getting calls from the police that there's geese stuck in there flapping around in it. We got called, no, dead serious. We were getting calls from the police, you know, that her mother said, oh, their son's tangled in the fishing line and she might, you know, they might get cut. So we tried it for a while. We finally, we pulled out on that one. The next one we tried was the Bird X Sonic Repellent. That's a Sonic Screamer. So we mounted that down at Vets Field. Financial money, we had to get the electrician, get a plug down there, and the Sonic would just screech at just random times of the day and night. So there'd be at a softball game going on, people are in the bleachers, the squawk box was underneath the bleachers, and right in the middle of a pitch, it's the ninth inning, all of a sudden the thing would just start squawking and screeching, and then people would just, they were smashing the speaker with baseball bats, with the softball bats, and people, it was horrible, and didn't work. There were geese all around the speaker when it would go off, and it didn't work. There was grape extract spray. The towns tried that. I think we tried it once. It was really sticky, kind of attracted ants, and it gives the birds nausea. So they're supposed to remember that and not want to feed, but it only lasts until it rains. So we'd put it down, we'd spend, you know, the money, and it was gone in 4 hours. And then it just kind of smelled like grape juice down there. And the geese were right back eating as ever they ever were. So we started to think that we were going to need to, you know, really approach the selectmen at that time and really hit them up with financial, what the reasons were. So obviously, these other reasons weren't gonna go. What we needed to do was, it was costing us money. So, Vets Field, for instance, you know, it was becoming a safety issue. So people are out there and they're legitimately falling out in the outfield on piles of poop. And guys are twisting their knees. So to think that, you know, someone's gonna tear their ACL apart on a glamorous Monday night softball game because they just fell in a pile of excrement. And balls wouldn't roll in the outfield. So, no, this is, when it was bad, the ball wouldn't make it up to the hill. And then the other part of it, agronomically, was costing us money. Was costing my budget money, was because all of a sudden the turf would be beautiful, and then out of nowhere we'd have this plantain growing, this big like cabbage growing randomly. We had all these really strange weeds growing in, and the geese that would come from the other towns of the swamp, it gets in their web feet, and between them eating bad grass, they come in, grows. 2 weeks later, now you've got a weed problem that we've never had in town. Not just crabgrass, I mean, just stuff that just wasn't growing locally and was probably in the swamps of Audubon Road. So we'd have to hire a company, they'd have to come in. Counterproductive for what we're doing here for this group, obviously, we'd have to come in and spray the field, which we try not to do. Apply some pesticides, we're near a lake, we don't want to do this, but we're going to lose the field. So you can see it was, we decided that we're really just going to need to come up and try to harass the birds. You know, so this is obviously a picture of the boat. The gentlemen, they were just out there last week, if you can see it. You know, the whole idea is to try to harass them, get the birds into the water, hop in the boat, get them to fly off the lake and go to another town. And we don't mind that, so we encourage that. So that's the company now. They're down there with his dog, and same thing. They know him. He doesn't have. He has just to pretty much flex his muscle down there, and the birds will start getting a little nervous, and then they'll take flight. So little history on the budget too. So we started out with getting donations. In Friends of Lake had anteed up some money back then. Keep in mind, you know, this is back when all the budget line items were a 16th of what they are now. So $800 was a sizable amount of money. We went to the FOLQ. We got them to supply the labor. We gave them some lumber, and they made these little mini kiosks, informational kiosks, and it was to beg people not to feed the geese. And we bought some signage, and we put it out there not to feed the waterfowl. And you know, 800 doesn't go very far. We got up to 2,500. That's when we started thinking that we were going to need more efforts to maybe think about trying to hire a company, trying to maybe get some more, you know, funds for maybe the grape extract spray if we get a dry patch. And then, and I remember specifically the biggest discussion we had was the $12,000 hit at town meeting. You would have thought that year we had, you know, 1.2 million pass on this one, 800,000 on this article, boom, 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 12,000 for goose control. Stop. Everything stopped. It was an hour discussion. Jim Scott had to come up. The town moderator was telling him to get down, and he was yelling. You know, it was, you know, some selectmen at the time were just, you know, floored, and others were just saying we need to. We had, we stacked the audience with Friends of Lake Quantipout people, because we figured it might be a discussion. So a lot of the folks came up and spoke and promoted what we were going to do. Again, Tony Butler called me up and said, you better take this one. And we were just taking questions, and it took a long time. The biggest problem at the time was when we realized that, is this going to solve it? You know, is this a one-shot deal? We give you the 12,000, we have geese tomorrow, and I had to sit there and say, yeah, we'll have geese forever. This isn't about curing the problem, it's about keeping it in check. And we've managed to do that. So, so that we did get the money. We tried to bump it up. That's when we hired our first goose company to come in, and he would come in with his dogs and run the boat. And you know, he'd do it a good, probably maybe 3 to 4 days a week, so the budget would allow. And then when we get out, the hard part is at the end of the year, you know, when the athletic groups aren't playing down at the softball field, there's less people walking around the lake, and there's less people walking dogs. The geese get real comfortable, and they you know, and the weather's turning cold, we have to pull the boat in. So now they know when they go into the lake, there's nothing there to shoo them off. So it's a real problem those last couple of months. So, and our latest one is, the budget right now is 27,500. And Atlantic Goose Company that we have, it's a fantastic relationship we have with them, really lucky. So real quick, I'll just walk you through that, what that entails for that money. So that's getting us about nine or 10 months a year. Last year, I took an extra month. I took some out of the professional service account and got us that one extra month, because if we don't have snow, same thing. The ground's cold, but the geese, they'll be around. They'll come in, they're hitting, lately, they've been doing 2 trips a day. They've been coming in the morning. So they're hitting multiple spots in the town. They don't just hit the Vets Field and the Common. They're going up to Colonel Connolly. They're going, we have a new flock that's coming into Walsh Field. They've been landing at night, and they're there at 5 in the morning. So they'll come in, they go to Walsh, then they go to the Common, Vets Field, Colonel Connolly, get them in the lake, get over to the tether system, pull the tether in, pump the boat out if it's rained, jump, scare them off the lake, go back, park the boat, and then they'll come back and do that. So really flexible too. We run into a problem where at supper time, we're getting another influx of birds coming in, and they just get, they get habitual. So like if no one's bothering them at 5 o'clock, they'll start making 5 o'clock runs around town. So that we have to change it up and start hitting them with different times. I'm also doing it too with I have that bird banger, which is just basically a pyrotechnic that scares them. So a lot of times I just pull up, I get them in the water, and I call him. I say, hey, we got 30 birds on the lower. They'll be back in an hour. And he'll say, oh, we're 2 towns away. We'll get them at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatnot. So really, when you think about what they're doing for the money, if you itemize it, it might be on their best day, it might be worth like an $80 run. But the ones where they're making two runs a day and pumping out the boat, and those guys, Dennis is the guy in that picture. Great guy. I mean, he's out there during, torrential storms. Some nights we just get overwhelmed with storm damage, and we try to pull the boat when we know we're having bad weather, and he's right there helping us with his rain gear on and rubber boots. And, really, if you guys get a chance and you see him out there, give him a thanks, because he takes a lot of pride in Wakefield, the boat and the motor, and he goes in, he gets the gas jug out, goes down to North Ave, fills it all up, and goes back, and really a big asset for the town. So it's working well. I mean, we really don't have any other options. I think, at our worst, the amount of geese that we're seeing now is about the worst we've had it in a long time. And I've got sheets from 2005 and Bill Butler had, and the counts are just, they were off the charts. And at the time, we thought we were doing better. We were starting our process. So to see how much they've come down, you're talking 3 times, 4 times the amount of birds on any given day on any one of those fields. So pretty bad stuff. So before I got some pictures of the vets and Floral. Does anybody have any questions about? Yep.
Dennis, what's the dog's name?
No, it's not Flash. I always say Flash, but it's Moose. Yeah. He's a big shepherd. So, and because the shepherd, he kind of keeps him on the leash, but he runs him over there and keeps him on a big 20-foot leash. Yep.
Did you actually try growing riparian vegetation to keep the geese out?
So we talked about that, letting the vegetation grow on the shoreline. So we talked about that, and at the time, we really felt like we had done all these years, we had the vista view on the lower common, we really didn't want to see it get all enclosed up. More importantly, Melrose did that, and it failed miserably. So they did it right before us, so it was a great safety net. I didn't want to see it personally. I didn't want to see the shoreline, lose it. We've worked so hard, and it really looks great. So, but they just walk right through it. It actually made more of a problem because it keeps them safe. So they know they can walk through it, they're behind the grass and the weeds, so you know that they're just out there. They poke their head out, they look around, they're pretty crafty. So they know no one's there, they go back out, and then if they get scared, they just fly over it. So it has no means of keeping the waterfowl out, absolutely not, so, yep.
Are there things that the citizens could be requested to help out with? Like, is it good to let your dog chase the geese? Is it
I mean,
not good?
we don't want to advertise that, because then we have a loose dog that might get aggressive. One, is it gonna just chase the birds, or is it actually gonna tackle one and start tearing it apart? And that's happened before, not them trying to do a good thing, but just the dog got loose and did it. And then, of course, if another dog's walking by and he's running free, and, you know, I just think liability-wise, I mean, anybody that's doing what they're supposed to do, if the dog's leashed and they're walking through, you know, by all means, I tell them all the time, I said, why don't you walk 30 feet over that way? And it's usually just enough to get the birds to hang in, so, yeah.
You forgot to mention when we oiled the eggs.
Oh, the oil line, yeah. So that's the other part of that company that that they do. They get the permit from the state, and they oil the eggs, and they'll go out and look around the shoreline and try to oil them. That's the humane way of smothering them, and so that they don't grow. Fortunately, I mean, the last 2 seasons, I think they got 2 on our lake. They're unbelievably crafty in hiding them. 1, and 2, they can lay all the eggs out in Audubon Road and all out in that area and by Pleasure Island, and there's tons of room out there. And they're hired, actually. There's a company, Edgewater's hired them to actually keep it out. So they're trying over there. You know, it's just it's a different thing over there. I mean, and you can legally hunt geese in Pleasure Island. It's believe it or not, I know guys that can hunt and have stopped just because it's too much of a hassle. They police call, then the police come, and then the environmental police come. They have the permit. The environmental police at that point have to educate the local police that they're actually within their rounds. They have to be so far off and this and that, but they are legal to hunt, and it's just get out of the blind, come back in. It's a kind of a difficult thing. Yep.
This occurs to me, you might be able to pick this on the road to Giggles and do a comedy show.
Yeah.
What about Crystal Lake?
So Crystal Lake, that's another round they do too. They won't chase on the water, okay, but on the lawn, there's big flare-ups, and they'll make that the round. They'll try to go in. It's a quick hit for them to jump in the water over there, because they're always near the building and they go in. So we've never done boat control there, you know, at that point, just because, well, it's a drinking supply too, so we, you know, just didn't want to, try not to have too many strangers. I don't know if Steve would want people coming in and firing up the boat, but not this Steve, but Steve Fitzpatrick, the water supervisor. But yeah, and it goes in waves. You know, there might be 4 or 5 over there, and you know, if we have 4 or 5 and they're staying there, and I can get them to not really go away, I mean, that's almost a sacrificial area. We had some swans. We got swans back. That was the other thing we looked at. Town was going to purchase a few swans. We're going to call the Essex Agriculture, get the babies, and we'd have to make a dog house, heated, keep them alive in the winter, put them out, and then, because they supposedly don't get along with the geese, but every time I go by the lake, the geese are swimming right beside the flocks of geese. It's just one big happy family, they're just bigger. So we had, I don't know, there's 3 or 4 of them last year, and I think I know we lost one had some fishing line tangled up, and we spent about 3 hours on a Saturday trying to corral that guy, and he just, whenever we got close to the net and grabbing them, they can move. You don't expect it, but just right when you're ready to grab them, they'll fly up and out of your arms, and he actually had a gimped leg, and then, you know, we found him a week later. He was gone, so we got him out of there. So, but they do get along. So, any other questions about the geese? Before we?
I might have Paul D'Angelo give you a call.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, yeah, I mean, we take it for granted. It's just, but we did have a lot of towns that were calling us, and, you know, what we're doing, how did we get the money? And I mean, looking back, it seems like, you know, a big thing, but, you know, back in the day, it was just all of a sudden we just started seeing these, you know, inordinate amounts of geese around the lake, and you know, that's when walking around the lake became the hottest thing. You know, it was a 90s thing, you know, everyone was out walking instead of going to the gym. So Vets Field, Floral Way. So This is a pretty huge project. It's pretty exciting too. So I just have a bunch of multiple slide, different angles of what we're doing. So we have been talking about redoing the tennis courts for a while down there. They've been out of use and tabled. We have the other tennis courts, so it went back and forth. And then, I don't know, about 2 seasons ago, we started talking about pickleball being a big thing and maybe attracting, you know, the older people that wanted to play. And so pushed it. Steve got involved, the councils got involved, and we started putting together some money. And it was, I think the whole project's gonna be about $250,000. And we had, what, 45 or 50 in grant, I believe. So, and like anything, it went from a simple, let's just do the courts over, and then, because of new, stringent laws and stuff and whatnot with the lake, and then, DEP gets involved, and they wanna see what we're doing, they limit what we can do, and it almost seems like the small project, it seems like once you have a massive project with massive drainage and improvements, it gets approved easier than when you have just a small, like we want to just sort of repave. So we have, so we ended up just incorporating, doing over. It was all really getting unkept. The hill, years ago, back in the 80s, we had the crown vetch growing on the hillside, and it was all the same height and nice flowering stuff that was kind of easy to control. And then over the years, it just became brambles and unsightly. And then last 2 years ago, we had that macro burst come through, and we lost, I don't know, 38 trees around that area. So, the snowdrift crabs there, they're kind of nice. They're historical. That road from Floral Way was actually one of the original roads that led to Reading back in the day. So it's actually kind of a little historical, more than a path, that section. So. They're coming in with geotextile sloping fabric. They're gonna put some wildflowers mix with also some grasses that are typically get like 8 or 10. You see them on the roughs of golf courses. So they'll get kind of nice and wispy, and then maybe cut it seasonally as needed, and we'll have flower patches. We're gonna replace the crabs. Show you how times have changed. Snowdrift crabs that were big back in the 80s now are getting really difficult around here to get. So we have other varieties of pink and white, so I'm kind of a big fan of alternating them anyway, so one disease doesn't whip right through them. So we're gonna have pink and whites coming back in there. We have at least 13 of them going back in the area, which will be nice. We got new stone dust. That's the area that's actually the court. And then the road is getting paved, where it was always muddy and getting washed out behind the backstop. That's gonna be hot top. And then up to a point where there'll be some granite pillars right at the entrance of the true Floral Way, and that's gonna be the compacted stone dust and gravel. And then they'll just have a hot top apron at the beginning off of Church Street. So the beginnings will look real clean, but then it'll be historical. Bill Renault's got a million hours wrapped onto this, the town engineer and people, and the Historical Society was involved too, so they want to come back. I don't have a picture of the pillars, but the pillars at the old cemetery are gonna actually have some old cedar fencing that was between the granite. They're gonna bring that back to kind of give it that nice old school, old cemetery look that it is. So that's the path. So it already looks really nice. We ended up adding in by the back of the Hartshorn house. So that was same thing, was just slope, unkept, just real unsightly. It was the time to do it. So we just went down that whole slope. We re-sloped it, got all loam. It's gonna get re-turfed and grass. So we went back and forth between what we were gonna do, what was actually good. True turf is really an awesome erosion control. It keeps stuff from going out. So we're doing a lot of grass back, and plus there's one of the pictures is, there it is, the water garden. That's one of the retention areas that'll come off. So unfortunately, as you know, Lake Quannapowitt has all the drainage flues that come right off the streets. 128, everything from the west side up in Reading, Parker Road, Chestnut, that all runs down to the lake. All the streets on Pleasant Street down, everything just runs right into it. Church Street, no exception, those go right in. So this was part of, what does the DEP want to see? We're going to do the pipe over, what's going to keep the contaminants from going in the lake. So we have a water garden there. That'll have some aquatic plants. It won't be just a bowl of grass with gravel in there. And that'll get changed out seasonally. We have another one up at Colonel Connolly, the same situation, because that area floods out so bad from American Mutual's property in Converse. And that's not Converse's fault. It really comes from 128 and just comes right off the chutes, right across the parking lot and into the lake. So we'll package that together. So seasonally, we'll get a landscaper in there probably just because we get taxed for time and come in and change those out and keep it respective and neat. And then it's more effective that way too. It has more benefit to catching the pollutants and whatnot going in there. So, and once it's all turfed around it, like I said, I think it's really gonna blend in nice, and it looks great going through there. Again, that's just the court, right there. They're just starting to grade it now, and that should be wrapped up pretty soon. Obviously, I know we're trying to get it ready for the 4th of July is our goal to have it all wrapped up, so, I think that's it. Any questions on?
Where's Floral Way? Is that near the Hopshorn?
It's behind it, yep, runs basically from the Congregational Church, the stone church, and then in front of the old burying ground, we call it the old cemetery, and then runs down through there.
To the
So,
softball field there.
down into the back of the softball field, yep, so, yeah.
Will you have tennis courts and pickleball?
I think they were gonna try to, I don't know if I know pickleball's a big thing, but I thought they were gonna try to line it for,
I think it'll be striped for both.
striped for both, was the thing.
Yeah.
It'll be what?
Striped, it'll be painted for both,
Oh,
yeah, so like they'll have the smaller one, is pickle smaller than the tennis, so.
And also at the top of the lake, the growth there is just wonderful and all filled in. Is that going to go away with all the development that's going
Where specifically are you talking about?
in front of Converse on the lake?
On the lake?
On the lake, the north end.
No, I mean, that's not their property, so, I mean, the lake shore is really our
They're
response.
not going to take things out and down so that they can see them?
No, it's not the plan. I mean, we seasonally trim on the Main Street side, and people have always wondered about that. So, back in '98, when I took over too, it was just a wall of thick bramble mess, and there was a ton of really nice birch trees in there, and we were losing them all, and some flowering trees. So we went in and took out, I mean, there's a lot of sumac and, Elianthus, it's just weeds basically that grow up. And they get tall, I mean, they have their place, but once they get tall, then they snap, and then the target zone around the lake too is constant, so there's always crowds of people walking around, so we wanna try to keep that as safe as possible. So we get rid of those, we usually do it in March, we couldn't this year, so it's a little tie up, but it keeps it away from the sidewalk, and then, lets the better trees, flourish, so it's kind of a win-win for us, that's why we do it, but, yeah?
What's your policy for lawn management, especially in the common, as far as fertilization or
So
any pesticides or anything?
yeah, we really, our approach even around town, I mean, we don't use pesticide around the schools because of the Children Protection Act. Around the commons, unless we see something that is an outbreak that's above an acceptable threshold, be it insect or even fungus. The commons, we have those, I send the soils out and get them tested. They're always right in there, and our program has just been aggressive, aerating, we top dress, we seed, we use an organic poultry-based fertilizer, which on the sulfur side, this product, we spoke about it a few years ago here at the Friends of the Lake meeting, and we talked about that. I'll be honest, I stumbled across that. The product works so well for us because we don't get a big nitrogen blast, and it's good for the turf. But then we found out after that, the sulfur the discharge from that would be one of the best kind that you could have near a lake source, right? And certainly better than a synthetic. So we don't, I don't use the synthetics, one, because it grows too fast. We get a flash and we just can't keep up with it. Plus, it's just not good for the lake. So we honestly just regular agricultural practices of aerating and seeding, and we mow constantly. We mow with sharp blades, and so before the 4th of July, before big events, we try to open up the grass with some big holes, and then right after the 4th of July, we come in, punch a million little holes, slice seed in a couple directions, top dress it, just like a golf course does. It's expensive, but you know, if we don't, I mean, back in '98, there was no grass around the bandstand. Only half of it had turf. It was getting pretty weak down there. So it works, and the same with Vets Field. We do it only there if we're going to see a problem that's actually going to whip that out, and we're going to lose the property. Otherwise, it's just the organic for it, and aerate and mow regularly. So.
Question?
Yeah.
You mentioned one of your chief means of erosion control being true turf. Are you referring to real sod, or is true turf a product?
No, I just meant grass, like straight grass, not, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, so a few seasons ago, we actually went, and there was a big study done on runoff, and woods matter, like woods mat, they call it, where it's just natural leaves, and then there was like letting brush grow heavy, and then turf. And then they put dyes in it, they let it run down, and they'd see it, and then turf was the best. True healthy turf was grass, was the best. Even leaves and natural, everyone thinks, well, that's natural. Rainwater and runoff can go underneath leaves on a steep bankment, and you don't realize it because the leaves on the top every year get thicker. You don't see it. You just assume that that's composting in, and it gets in. So there's advantages to having turf. Plus it's clean, and it's the quickest to maintain if you can mow it. You know, I mean, as opposed to hand, you know, trimming and weed whacking and being bent over with chainsaws and trying to remove, you know, excessive brush and whatnot. So you know, it's a clean thing. But it was, yep.
I think you're doing a great job, but how come I'm seeing caution, keep off, pesticide, you know, the yellow sign around the lake in various places?
Yeah, that was a few weeks back. We did it because
right next, and I just want to let you know, it was right next to the lake and the playground.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I mean, like I said, I'm not saying we try not, Colonel Connolly, we wanted to because there was starting to get some crabgrass and some knotweed growing back, and we didn't want to see that take over. We just spent all the money that we did doing over the park. So, you know, we look at it, we watch the weather, we make sure it's not going to be something it's not, you know, and the flag, just because the flag is there doesn't mean we're applying right to the water. We could be applying up by the flagpole at Colonel Connolly, and doesn't mean that we know what the rules are. And the company we've used in town, very reputable, we've been around with us back since 1978, and they used to do all the properties, and the same with vets. And once we do, usually we're pretty good for the season, unless there's another problem that arises or we can't nip it in the bud. So and if it's just a pre-emergent, we do a pre-emergent to keep stuff from going over. Again, we've got other problems going up there, and the geese it all ties in. So the geese are adding to the problem that we might not have a weed problem, and then all of a sudden, you know, certain flocks come and habitate up at Colonel Connolly or Vets Field, and all of a sudden we've got different weeds that would be invasive, take over all the good healthy grass, which then it gets thin, then we get more runoff, we get more bare spots, then we have to seed more, then we're watering twice as much. So it really is, you know, as much as we get it, it's not the friendly word to use, the pesticide thing. We try to use as little as possible, but there are times that, done correctly, it's going to save the environment and time and money. So, yeah.
For your mowers and other vehicles and equipment, are you thinking of going electric? Do you have any electric?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Are they not available? Or
Not in the large scale stuff. I mean, electric for some of the small hand stuff. It just you haven't seen anything yet that's that positive. Not certainly. I mean, our mower is a 14 feet wide gang mower that we use, and that's our primary mower that cuts. He probably cuts 40 acres a week with that. So in any given day, typical day for that gang mower, we'll cut the lower common, upper common, Vets, Moulton, Walsh, and if there's time, we'll cut Blatt's Field. That's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday route. And Tuesday and Thursday, we hit Sullivan, Maple Way, the smaller fields, and go back. So, yeah.
that kind of equipment is not becoming available, and
not yet. We haven't seen anything that large scale in electric, so, and obviously then there's a price tag with it, and some of the smaller mowers, I haven't even, I mean, I personally don't know any other towns that are doing any mowers bigger than 6 feet that are electric. Haven't seen any that are effective, that are gonna go out that often, yeah. So, I know some towns are trying to do weed whackers, the smaller stuff, and even those, there's some advantages. It's quieter, but the battery doesn't last that long. It's easy to get lost in the label. So it says will last 2 hours. Well, that's 2 hours if it's used half throttle. So hedge trimmers, I just looked at them last week at a vendor in Linfield, and you know, they're light, and then when you put the battery in, it weighs within a half a pound of the gas one, and same thing, lasts an hour and a half. But if it's run full wide open, it lasts only an hour. So now you're doing battery changes, and so hand blowers and smaller stuff. I know some of the towns that have the ordinances for noise, you know, in the city and stuff, I've gone that route. But large scale commercial, like golf courses, municipality stuff, no. Long answer, but no. Yeah, that's a good question though. You know, we get that quite a bit. Yep.
Dennis, I would just say that one of your other titles is Tree Whisperer. I know you didn't get to talk about it that much tonight, but you had a well-deserved honor of Tree Warden of the Year, you know, just in recent history. And I have been incredibly impressed with your knowledge and commitment to making sure we're planting more trees in our town. And I know that we, for many years, have had a tree deficit each year, and Dennis has worked very hard to reverse that through the community tree program and other initiatives that you've been spearheading on that. So I just want to thank you for that, because that's part of this ecosystem you're talking about here, having more tree cover. So, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, no, we got that tree grant that we're working on. Right now, we got a company in to help. So when we get those storms and we get hit, the trees are coming down faster, and then the stumps tend to accumulate. So we just, you know, we're always in a mode to keep things safe for the community. So it's get the hazard out of there, get the fallen tree out. We have to try to get back for the stumps. So we got a company in right now, and it was a total of 90, I think, we had town-wide. And we've done, I think, almost 50 in the last couple of days. So they're in this week. We're getting rid of those. Next step is get them back. We got to order the trees. We'll be coming in, trying to get back. So a lot of the people, surprisingly, are really excited about getting the tree down. I think a lot of people complain about them, the leaves, you know, the limbs and whatnot, and then once it's totally gone, it's pretty barren. And usually about a month later, you usually get a call from the resident that says, you know, I'd kind of like to get a tree back. It's, you know, it's fun, because I get called every bad name under the sun, and I'd like to play the recording back, but I'm not catty like that. They just you know, no, but they do. They really miss them, and you know, it's we try to give them a tree. You can't. There's a happy balance. Obviously, it's a tight area. So, but thank you.
We're getting to the magic hour, 8
All right,
o'clock. We
that's
promised
perfect.
people. Dennis, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed your talk, especially about the geese, but about all of it. And I appreciate everything you do. I think we all do. A round of applause. WCAT has recorded this, and will they be showing it? We just have to look for their schedule. Yeah, so if you want to see it, or if you want to have any of your friends, Karen Thaler, I know, wants to see this.
Yeah,
You heard that she couldn't be here.
Yeah, it's too bad.
So I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. I don't know if there's any cookies left, if you'd like to grab some on your way out. Want a cookie? And I want to thank, is Rob? Yeah, Rob's here. Rob, he really was instrumental in setting up tonight's dinner. It was delicious. It was excellent. I don't know what everybody else thought, but I enjoyed it. And I think, is there anyone else has any comments they want to make? Any questions?
Good job, Dad.
What?
I said, good job, Dad.
You didn't mention the coyotes.
So
Yeah.
I didn't. I forgot about the coyotes.
Tell
so.
them about the, tell them about the, I remember,
Yeah, I'm sorry, real quick. So the
Yeah,
coyote thing was, the decoy coyote thing was our big push, one of the first strategies. And we put them down the common, and again, complete nightmare. Every day, every morning, it was a regular routine. We had to get a pole saw from the tree department. The kids would take the head off. and kick their head into the water. And then we'd get mothers down at the playground, would panic because they'd see this floating head, and they thought it was a real dog head. We'd have to explain. And then the geese they weren't afraid of it at all. They would come up at night, and we had pictures of them, and I wish I could have found them, but they were all around it, like almost just literally leaning up against them, hanging out with the coyotes, and it was just one by one, and we please just net these things, and but the program we have now is really the best thing. But, any other questions you guys have?
Wasn't my idea. My idea was putting all the goose control stuff in the budget, so we didn't have to go through that discussion.
Yeah, but any questions you guys think of, just call my office. It's easy to talk about this stuff. It's fun. We take it for granted, so it's a lot of, it's a good thing we have in town. So.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah,